Hey guys, glad you're here. After I finished all my business in California that I'll eventually tell you about, I wanted to get back to my time. I could have just waited, but I had a feeling I wouldn't survive all the radiation and monsters and time. While contemplating how to get back, I met an old guy. He told me the desert has a lot of weird things going on, including some sort of time-traveling device. I thought he was crazy, but then I remembered the used car salesman I met. So I grabbed my old gear and set off. I had to track down this stupid telephone booth that suspiciously felt like a pop culture reference. While I was scouring the desert looking for it, it appeared right in front of me. Someone stepped out, so I saw my chance and took it. I tried to get drop me off back in my time in New Vegas, but instead it dropped me off at what I later learned was the Commonwealth. I stepped out and looked over what appeared to be a bombed-out serene little town. I checked the date on my Pip-Boy, that suddenly looked like it got a massive upgrade, and that's when I realized I was in the wrong time. I needed to get back to the moment I left so I could scare Cass for making me look like that satellite. But I turned around, the machine was gone. And that was when I looked down at my feet to see where it dropped me off for the first time. No way! No way! Vault 111! How? Why? I wanted to run, but there was no civilization in sight, and the sun was already down. If I didn't make camp somewhere, I was gonna freeze to death. I had to make a choice. Certain death out there, or near certain death in the vault. I almost chose the former. But I had lived through so much, I wasn't about to let a cold kill me. So, I went into the vault. This was a fun little ride down into the vault. I had never experienced anything like it before in the other vaults, so it was interesting. They had a perfectly good cliffside to drill into, so I couldn't help but wonder why they dug down and then inward. It was probably way safer since it would never experience a head-on collision, but I still find it odd that this is the only vault constructed in this manner. So many others would have been great candidates for this process. We all know that the monster raid's safety is not a concern, but wouldn't they want to protect their experiment? Riding down, the vault door was already open, which was a surprise. Most vaults are sealed when I get to them. The only reason to not seal it is if somebody left with no intention of returning. Which means somebody actually survived the vault, or somebody looted it before me. Both options would be astounding, really. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting them to roll out the red carpet, but I didn't expect such a cold reception. I got checked for rides like I was some sort of filthy animal. But it's fine. I'm fine. Not offended at all. I pushed my way through and immediately shivered. This vault was so cold. I might have been warmer outside. But this vault was actually clean, so the germaphobe in me was pleased. It's not easy being a germaphobe after the apocalypse. It was a little cluttered, because they had the same decorations Vault 22 had laying about. They really wanted to get people in the Halloween spirit. Good call considering when the bombs fell. Which was October 23rd, 2077. There really wasn't much going on here though. And it soon became clear why when I found a science terminal. This experiment was absolutely horrifying. All the residents of this vault were frozen. And what's worse is they were dead! There were 2 empty pods, but when I checked the computer, only 1 pod was marked as empty. The other belonged to some guy called Nate. For whatever reason, none of the pods opened except for the one with a woman named Nora, who was supposed to be holding her son, Sean. But he was gone and she had been shot. I felt sick. But I got a free wedding ring out of it. Score! Look, she didn't need it anymore and I was stranded here without my caps. I need to make ends meet. Or maybe that special someone is here for me in the future. They weren't in the past, which I'm kind of relieved about. They were all shallow. I would go so far as to call them two-dimensional. Spoiler alert, I sold the ring. As bad as I felt, there was nothing I could do for these people, even when I got back to my own time. The future is the future. If I tried changing it, I would only ensure it happened. That's how time travel works. So I kept going. I ended up in a security room. There I read the journal of a security guard and learned the staff didn't exactly have a good time either. For what it's worth, security seemed pretty clueless about the whole thing. They were told freezing residents would lead to a better future, so they just did their job. Although the author of the journal thought it was morally dubious. They tried to keep spirits up with little parties and stuff, but tensions were rising. It seems Vault-Tec only prepared them with a little over 6 months worth of supplies with the intention of sending the all-clear signal when it was safe to return to the surface. But the signal never came. There was a clause that allowed the overseer to decide to leave after 180 days if there was no signal, but this overseer did not. I don't know why this overseer acted the way he did, but he did not handle it with grace. As security and support started challenging him, he demanded all weapons, medicine, and food be given to him before he locked security out while leaving the researchers in his office with him. Maybe if he had been more transparent, a coup wouldn't have been planned. It's not clear what actually happened, and unfortunately Vault security tapes are only safe for 100 years, but based on the fact there was a skeleton sitting in the overseer's chair, they probably calmly talked things out, worked out a deal to leave, and put a decoration there as a funny joke before heading out. Way better than that though, I found a computer with a video game on it. Personally, I thought this game would work way better with an ape, plumber, and mayor, but what do I know? I'm apparently a time-traveling courier, not a game developer. I thought about pulling a bender and sitting here all night taking the high scores, but this game sucks. I took it with me to Smash later. I learned only a little bit about the man who was the overseer. He didn't seem overly malicious. At first, he thought the experiment of sending people to the future through cryopods was neat and clearly expected them to live. He's relieved they got residents in without hassle and that everyone enrolled except one person called Nordhagen got in. Side note, in my travels through the Commonwealth, I found a place called Nordhagen Beach, which suggests he survived to found it, but there's no proof of this. If this is true though, he got the best deal in the end. The Overseer was confident Vault-Tec would send the all-clear signal for them and tinkers with his pet project to pass the time. The Cryolator, a gun that can induce cryogenic freezing, which actually sounds pretty cool. Pun certainly intended. The later terminal enters are when he clearly starts unraveling. He truly seems to want to keep his staff safe in the vault since he thinks the outside is still barely deadly and will kill everyone if it were opened. But he doesn't know what to do since the all-clear signal never came. He wants to prioritize who gets food based on who he thinks deserves it. The attempt to consolidate materials is probably what caused the mutiny. That's lost entry. No history beyond that. But the evacuation tunnel was open, so I'm guessing everyone joined hands and skipped out, which is why updates stopped. To see if I missed anything, I scrubbed through 100 years of security tapes on very fast speed. Nothing happened until 2227. Two scientists and a man who looks like he would make a decent boss fight in an RPG came in, opened one of the pods, tried to take the baby Sean from Nora, who resisted, shot her, and then left? It was wild, but explained my findings. It wasn't until much later that I somehow found myself way too deep in this mess that I learned his name was Conrad Kellogg. He was told to not react to life support for the other residents, and that's why they all died. Except for two. This was a huge waste of life. People who have never been exposed to radiation are pretty rare. I kept watching, and again, nothing happened on the tapes for a long time except for a rat roach infestation. Then, in 2287, the last cryopod is open from a remote location outside the vault. Out pops our last popsicle, Nate. He's the father of Sean and husband of Nora. I watched him be confused for a while and make his way through the vault, not grabbing everything he could get his grubby mitts on like an idiot. The one thing he tried to get was the cryolator, but it was locked in a case, so he made a promise to come back for it. But I assumed he must have forgotten, because I unlocked that bad boy for myself. I don't know how anyone could ever forget to go back for the cryolator, unless they were like, I don't know, a huge idiot or something. Such a memorable weapon. A few moments later, I realized he didn't actually forget. I did some background research on this guy and learned he was in the army. Clearly he was on the Pugilist division because when those radroaches came after him, they overwhelmed him. He died, and I stopped watching after that because I felt sick. Those things are so gross! I did find a skeleton on the way out. Hard to believe that we use real people as Halloween decorations. And that was it. The residents were all dead. Clean out the radroaches, seal off the makeshift mausoleum, turn up the heat a little, and it could be a nice place to live where you don't have to worry about attacks. But instead, like most every other vault, it was abandoned. A reminder of Vault-Tec's villainy. I got a good night's sleep in the overseer's bed, then I left forever too. This vault was a mess, but I can't say it wasn't worth visiting. I got the jacket I wear now, as well as an upgrade for my Pip-Boy, a sick wedding ring that I was able to easily pawn, and the Cryolator, a gun I used exactly one time, but we're putting in a display case in my makeshift house forever. Sadly, I have no concrete proof on whether or not the staff of Vault 111 did make it out or not, but the lack of bodies was pretty telling. It doesn't really matter though, because this vault did save somebody. Little baby Sean went out into the world after being kidnapped, which means this vault was a success. A lot more people could have survived, but outside forces killed them this time. Which is weird since it's only Vault-Tec that does the healing. You know, because the vaults were never meant to save anyone. Not integral to the lore of Vault 111, I much later found a pinball table which had Vault 111 on it and an eccentric Vault-Tec collector's home. I had no idea what was going on in the game, and I had a companion with me who was just as lost, but her commentary made it worthwhile. In the eccentric's basement, I found an RPG emblazoned the Vault 111 jumpsuit. I couldn't make heads or tails of it because I'm not a nerd. And that's everything about Vault 111 that I could find.